Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video, I basically want to introduce the concept of variables. As we all know, in the previous program, I introduced expressions, but I just put out a bunch of numbers such as the numbers like 10.3 or 10 divided by 4 or 6 divided by 8, the mod, but I haven't really shown you what those numbers are and like what they're used for and why they're used in programming. So this video will basically help to introduce that and help explain that to you. So let me go ahead and create a new Java file and I'll call this class variables, which we will introduce variables in this video. So public static void main. I'm going to go ahead and create the main method. Let me go ahead and compile, save, run, clear my terminal. Let me compile it again. And let me go ahead and make a method that will basically help us introduce variables. So public static void, and let me just call it variables. Variables. And so basically the idea of variables is things that hold data. Think of storing things in memory or the idea of having values that you could use later on. For example, instead of typing the number 1 divided by 1 or 5 plus 10, let's say you didn't want to have to type that and you basically want to have something that stores it so that way you can reference it explicitly. So let me show you with an example. For example, let's say I want to print out system.out.println. I want to print out 10 plus 10. And then I also want to print out, let's say, system.println 10 plus 10 times 5. And let's say I want to do the same thing, 10 plus 10 times 10. Basically, as you can see, we are just printing out 10 plus 10, 10 plus 10, multiple times. I mean, we could do that if you want to, but variable allows us so that we don't have to keep typing the number 10 plus 10. So wherever you see the number 10 plus 10, we could introduce something known as a variable, which will allow us to simplify the program. And let me go ahead and talk about that right now. So for example, variable, there's different types of variables. There's ints, there's doubles, there's strings, there's booleans, there's chars. And so these are basically the types of variables that I hope to introduce. Let me go ahead and get started with ints. Ints are basically numbers that are whole numbers, such as 10. Like they don't have decimals, like 10, 10, 5, 34, 37, 149. Numbers that are basically whole numbers with no decimals. 0, for example, could be a number negative 35. So the way you declare a variable is you have to give it the type. So for example, I could say int, you say int. Let's say I want to store a variable of type int. What I do is I type the keyword int. As you can see, it's highlighted purple, meaning it's a keyword. And what you do is you give it a name. So for example, let's say I want to call this int x. And then you assign it a value equals. So what this is doing is it's now declaring a variable int x equals, and let's say I set it equal to 10. So what I've done now is I've created a variable x. Again, this is a variable, so I can name this like TV or food. This is just a variable name. But what I want you to see is when I created this int x equals 10, I basically told the program, hey, I created a variable called x which has a value of 10. So whenever I have the value of 10, instead of typing 10 explicitly, I could just type in x. Let me just go ahead and run this to see what it does. And again, we have to call the method if you want to run it, because right now it's not going to do anything. We have to actually call it in main if we want to see our output of what this method does. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Go ahead and indent this. Clicking this will indent, by the way, and clicking this will take the indent out. But let me go ahead and compile it and run it. So as you can see, we printed out 20, 60, 110. But I haven't used the value of x yet. So how I use the value of x, think of x like anything you could do with printlns or anything you can print out numbers. Just think of 10 as like a number. For example, I could just do x. I can do x plus 10. Let's see what this does. And let me go ahead and comment this out just so you guys can see the output. It printed out 20. I could do x plus x. I could do x plus x. See how I printed out 20? X plus x is 20. So instead of actually typing out 10, 10 plus 10, I basically created a variable which has the value of 10. So whenever I see the number 10, I could actually write x. See how this basically simplifies our program? And this is basically the idea of variables. And in the next video, we'll cover doubles as well as we'll talk about strings in future videos. But yeah, this is basically the whole underlying idea of a variable. And one example of variable that we talked about today is int. Again, remember int is like whole numbers and they store whole numbers. And I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in another video. Take care.